Oh my god. Do you see it? It's a freddle. In our backyard. Why is it there?
That's not a freddle. That's a visual metaphor for your inability to move on from the everlasting impact of your past content.
You know, sometimes I come across a book that I just really want to talk about on this channel. Is that too much to ask? Huh? Is it? Huh? Recently I was recommended a book called North American Lake Monsters by Nathan Ballingrud. Never heard of Nathan Ballingrud before, but as a fan of cryptids and with a video about lake monsters planned for the future, I was excited to dive in. Turns out this book isn't really about those things. Firstly, it's a short story collection featuring 8 stories Ballingrud published in websites and magazines between 2004 and 2011, with a 9th original tale penned specifically for it. Secondly, North American Lake Monsters is just the title of one of these stories, number 7 to be specific. The other stories cover a more varied swath of topics. And thirdly, this thing on the cover isn't even a North American lake monster. What the hell is this? Persian manuscript illumination of Leviathan or Cetus. What are you trying to sell to me, Nathan? Also, apparently this was adapted for Hulu as a series called Monsterland. Cool. I don't really watch TV, so... cool. The best way to describe North American Lake Monsters is a series of dark tragedies set across different walks of Americana. Most of them take place in the southeast, with Louisiana and the Blue Ridge Mountains making multiple appearances. And while many of them feature some supernatural element, they're all complementary to the human drama unfolding at hand. This is a book that features vampires, werewolves, lake monsters, but they play second fiddle to broken families, guilt, depression, agony, loss. Their presence enhances the hardships the protagonists go through, and it's often directly symbolic of those hardships. It's not exactly an original literary trope, but it still proves to be clever and impactful and ultimately satisfying to read. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I have a history with short story collections. The tales in this book are in some ways similar to the FNAF books. They leave things open-ended. You find yourself putting pieces together and speculating on what's really happening or what will happen once the pages run out. But whereas the FNAF books seem to stretch their source material thin and were often rendered confusing and confused, probably a result of their creative process, the stories in North American Lake Monsters are about whatever Nathan Ballingrud intended them to be. He has an idea, he commits to it, and he tells self-contained, substantial tales with closure and meaning. Yes, you are left to speculate on things, but the speculation is intentional and crafted in a way that doesn't leave you grasping at straws. And let me tell you, from my perspective, that was extremely refreshing. Following will be a very brief recollection of each story, along with my thoughts. You Go Where It Takes You features a single mother named Tony who brings home a man named Alex, a man who, as it turns out, can eerily swap identities on a whim. This first story set the mood for me going forward. The horror is quiet and underplayed, in favor of grim, tragic realism. It wasn't as dynamic as the other stories, but it was still a good start. Wild Acre features a contractor named Jeremy who leaves his coworkers to die at the paws of a werewolf and is besieged by guilt and what-ifs that threaten to tear him down at the roots. The opening sequence with the attack is great, and I liked the funeral scene with his Mexican coworker, but the rest of the story was kind of predictable. Still, it's well written and hard-hitting enough where it counts. I'm refilming this segment on a different day because I didn't like what I'd written before. My integrity knows no bounds. Please clap. SS deviates the most from the other stories in that it takes the real-life monsters are scariest approach. In this case, it's, neo-Nazis. Which, you know, valid. Our protagonist, named Nick, is torn between his psychotic disabled mother and a local skinhead gang in an effort to find purpose in a broken world. I like this one fine. It was more low-key than the others. It had this creepy, grungy, almost kooky tone, especially with the protagonist's mother, and the ending is just dripping with metaphor. That said, it's probably the weakest of the bunch, but it's still a high-quality work by itself. The Crevasse delves into cosmic horror. It features this sled team in Antarctica, who stumble across this giant temple in the ice that's upscaled for these mysterious, larger beings. As a dog lover, this one kinda messed with me, fair word of warning. Not as bad as Nick Cutter's The Deep, but then again, almost nothing is. This one's oozing with Lovecraftian themes and tropes, for better and for worse. Not bad, but it doesn't stand among the strongest of the tales. The Monsters of Heaven is probably my favorite, as I think it balances the human drama with the supernatural elements the best, as it features this grieving couple who had just lost their son, adopting this misshapen creature they call an angel, but it's not really an angel. In fact, no one actually knows what it is. I honestly wish this story's title went to headline the book, as at a glance, the title better encapsulates the overall collection's themes. Still, this one's pretty great. It hits the emotional and narrative beats perfectly. Sunbleached is a close second. It stars a boy named Joshua who is detached from the world after his father leaves their family, and he falls into a parasitic relationship with a vampire. I love the way tragedy curdles in this one, and as someone who enjoys the sophisticated ancient being vampire characterization, this story really resonated with me. The linking between the shadow of his father and the shadow of the vampire is very well done. A bit predictable at the end, but still a great read all around. The titular North American Lake Monsters is about an ex-convict named Grady trying to reconnect with his wife and daughter at a cabin, and the beached corpse of a lake monster that serves as a point of conflict. This one in true form emphasizes the drama first, monster second approach, but I just think using its title as the headliner was suboptimal. Regardless, I vibed with the overall theme of finding beauty in the ugliness of life. A worthy story. I like the Way Station a lot because it features a spin on ghosts, hauntings, possessions that I've never seen before. The main character, Beltrain, is haunted by New Orleans post-Katrina, in that floodwaters literally pour from portals in his chest, and you could see street lamps in his eyes. That is so cool. And the rest of the story expands on this concept while giving him some pretty compelling drama, probably in competition with second place with Sunbleached. The final story, The Good Husband, is about this woman named Katie who takes her own life, but comes back as this ghastly revenant, and her husband Sean's attempts to keep her alive in more ways than one. This one's simple, yet brutal, and it's especially effective when it switches to Katie's perspective as this slow, cold, walking corpse that becomes more zombie-like over time. A really solid way to cap off the collection. So yeah, I'm a big fan of North American Lake Monsters, and I'll be reading it again when I get a chance. If I had one criticism to make, it's that the author's use of similes got overly excessive, and this carried across every story, but in all fairness, it's nowhere near as egregious as Nick Cutter's The Troop. Also, it's inevitable that some stories just wouldn't compare to others in terms of impact and quality, but again, inevitable. If you're looking for a dark, diverse short story collection to consume this spooky season, I highly recommend North American Lake Monsters. Links in the pinned comment. And with that, I will see you all next time.